So this is for all the ladies in the house, you know what I'm saying?
I gotta be honest, I originally was not gonna do a video on this subject, but after really thinking about it, I just felt like I had to get these feelings out. Now, most of you that know Mr. Griffin, me, know that I usually do my videos on pro wrestling, but that's not my only interest. I do have some political interests and other entertainment interests. And hip-hop is one of them, especially old school hip-hop. And growing up, I'm not going to try and front like, oh, I grew up in the hood. No, I didn't grow up ghetto, but I didn't exactly have the Beverly Hills childhood either. So one of my escapes was hip-hop music. And one of my favorite artists was Heavy D. That wasn't always the case, though. I know he had stuff earlier on, like Mr. Big Stuff and Overweight Lover, but when I first really started to feel him was the Teddy Riley produced We Got Our Own Thing off of the Big Time album. After that, my mom, I believe, bought me that album because actually he was one of the few rappers I was allowed to even play in the house. That she would allow me to play in the house at all. She bought me that. She bought me that cassette. It's one of the few albums I could play from start to finish and not skip once. Even his B and C stuff was good. I remember bobbing my head, not to, of course, We Got Our Own Thing, but I remember bobbing my head to I'm in the Mood for Love, Somebody for Me, which featured Al B. Sure singing in the background. Lots of songs. Girls, They Love Me. Of course, he later remixed that, which the remix was even better than the original. And my dad, who I grew up in a single parent household, that my parents were married when they had me, but they divorced when I was about 6. My dad was not into rap music either, but Heavy D was one of the few rappers he liked. And that was incredible in and of itself. I think the song that got him into him was Now That We Found Love, which featured Aaron Hall. Now, I remember having that album. It came off of the Peaceful Journey album. And that album was good, too. That was another one that I could have played the whole thing and not skipped. And, of course, one of my favorite Heavy D tunes of all time was You Can't See What I Can See, which also featured Flavor Flav in the background going, you're blind, baby. You're blind from the fact. So Heavy D's had a pretty good influence in my life. And he's one of the few rappers, or just celebrities, period, that I've never heard a scandal on, that I've never heard a bad word. I mean, even in this day and age, I mean, even some of the icons, like the Jacksons, particularly Michael and Janet, Quincy Jones, Phil Spector, Tina Turner, even those people had their share of enemies in the business. Mary J. Blige have had their share of enemies. Heavy D was one of the few that I've ever heard of that did not, or at least from an outsider's point of view, did not seem to have an enemy at all. And that's rare in any entertainment field. Even the most popular and beloved figures usually have one or two people or one or two small groups of people that totally can't stand them. But I never saw that with Heavy D. Everyone seemed to love this guy. And of course, he did a few forays in the movies. He's also immortally remembered for his theme song for In Living Color.
he did two versions, both of which are still fondly remembered. And if you have the channel called Centric, which is an offshoot of BET, via DirecTV or on your regular cable, you could hear that theme song every time In Living Color is played. In fact, I just came from flipping through the TV. An episode of In Living Color was just on, and I just played it just to hear the theme at the beginning. It didn't matter which version, whether it was the original version from season 1 or the one they used after. Both featured Heavy D, and both are classics. And really, hearing about his death today just shocked me and hit me hard. I mean, I would say not as hard as, say, Aaliyah a few years ago, but definitely harder than, say, Joe Frazier. And Joe Frazier's death was sad yesterday, Monday, November 7th, 2011. It was sad, but it was not that surprising. Sort of the same thing. I think not quite the same level, but I think his death, Heavy D's, I mean, it's just as shocking as Michael Jackson's a couple of years ago, in that no one saw this coming. No one saw this at all. Especially, I'm sure we'll find out more about Heavy D's death in the days and weeks to come. I'm sure. But right now, I'm just stunned. But I know this: he was one of the good guys, and he came from an era of rap where you didn't need a lot of cussing and language and being sexist towards women to sell a record. Now, don't get me wrong. The gangster element in rap music, the hard edge in rap music, does have its place. I mean, if used correctly, like Public Enemy used to, or like early NWA used to. I mean, I'll be honest, I still play Fuck the Police once in a while because there's a lot of truth to it. I also play Express Yourself by them. Ice-T, I play Colors sometimes, or The Tower by Ice-T. I mean, gangster rap does have some place in that hip-hop genre. But there was also a place, which you rarely hear it now, there's also a place for clean, fun rap. And that's what Heavy D was. I think his music at worst was PG-13. He was among that group of rappers like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Of course, the Fresh Prince we now know is who we now know as Will Smith. Kid and Play was that type. Big Daddy Kane, to a degree, was that type. Although he was more adultish, I think the worst his music was, maybe occasionally he would get almost R-ish, but most of the time his stuff was maybe PG-13 at worst. Heavy D's was maybe PG at worst. But most of the time his stuff was G-rated. Like I said, my parents even liked Heavy D. And they hated rap music, but they liked him. But he gave me some of my fondest memories. I think the last album I bought from him was the one that had Nothing But Love on it. But my two favorite songs on it was Got Me Waiting, the remix, which was more of a slow jam type version, and This Is Your Night, which combined elements of George Benson's Gimme the Night and I believe Kool and the Gang's Ladies Night. It combined those two elements to make one smooth song. But really, to wrap this up, this is a real shocking death. May he rest in peace, and I hope he's in heaven. Prayers to his friends and family, and particularly his daughter, Zien. Rest in peace, Hev.
I truly hope you hear me. And through all your travels, I'm wishing you a peaceful journey.